All right, guys, you asked for it. Today's the day, the Chubby Chaser walk around. You ready for it? Let's get this started. So if you don't know anything about the Chubby Chaser, it is a CJ8 8182, something like that. I can't remember. It's an all leaf spring rig and LS motor, manual transmission, MP205 transfer case. We have a 14 bolt in the rear that Matt and I shaved and put the TMR 15 bolt kit in, which has been awesome. And then I have a Dana 60 in the front, all Yukon chromoly super joints with solid steering knuckles. Yeah, all solid steering knuckles. And it's a Dana 60, something like a 80s model. And it's a kingpin, so it don't have any ball joints or anything like that. So as for the tires, I'm lucky enough to be running the brand new Mickey Thompson Baja Pro X, which we tested out today for the first time. I can't say anything about it. It's not even comparable to my old tires. My old tires were worn out. I needed new tires. So this is just a drastic improvement over what I had. I loved my old tires when they had a lot of tread on them. Now these are stickies and they're super soft. It's amazing tire, and today was just fantastic running them. So you'll see that in the footage as well. So it did really, really well. I didn't have to beat on it very often, so that was good. So as for the interior goes, I have a marine radio, I have a tachometer, I have a UHF radio, a CB radio, and I have a Garmin GPS inside that has maps of a lot of the trail systems here in East Tennessee. And then the biggest, coolest feature of this entire Jeep is a Premier power welder mounted in the dash. It will run anything on 120 volts. It doesn't have a variable speed. So like a blender, you push a button, push a button, push a button. You can run a blender, you can run a grinder and a drill. But when you use a drill, you got to pull the trigger and it just start and not be variable speed. If you have a variable speed trigger, it'll burn it up. But you can run a lot of things like that. It can have leads as far as 500 feet, I think it is. Like, it's crazy how far the leads can go. And then I have the hand throttle, and that's how you control the RPMs, and that's how you control how many amps you put into your welding rod. So it's a super slick setup, and you've probably seen me on posts or in other videos welding up some stuff because it happened. So my fuel cell right here, it's a custom fuel cell that we had welded up. It's 1/8 inch aluminum. We had been running some other fuel cells, I won't say anything, and they're just too thin and the welds crack and you have them re-welded. They just didn't have any baffles inside them or anything like that, so got tired of that. So this time we built a new fuel cell, same dimensions as the other one, which is a 30 inch by 12 by 12. And then we put a 1 gallon sump on the bottom of it. So we have a 4-inch sump on the bottom of it to make sure, so we don't have to run any fancy pickups or anything like that inside there. It has a small hole. The bottom, the return goes into the sump on the fuel cell. So it's a great setup now. Zero issues with fueling ever since I went with this fuel tank after we built it. And it's just super strong, super beefy. It's got filled with baffles inside of it. It's a real nice thing. So my toolbox is a Tuffy sliding toolbox that I like, but it's so big I put more crap in it than I should, so it weighs a ton. I have all my welding supplies, metal, lots of rods, all that stuff, all your wrenches, anything like that. And there's, like I said, it's so big though, I put more in it to fill it up so that it doesn't bounce all over the place. So I kind of wish that it was smaller by about 1/3 of the size. That way I could just shrink down all my tools inside there. Who's your daddy? Since I got the new tires from Mickey Thompson, I got new wheels because I went from a 15-inch wheel to a 17-inch wheel, and I was able to get those from Scott Goforth up in Kodak. Some of y'all have heard of him. He deals with a lot of stuff, so I was able to get the wheels from him. He's a local guy. I really liked helping the local guy out there. Rockstar Garage helped me get the Mickey Thompsons. Big shout out to them. carry a high lift jack, 60 inch. I have the room to carry a 60, so sometimes you need that over a 48. I also have a bottle jack in my toolbox, so when you just need a small bottle jack. My top is a factory Scrambler truck top. The roof itself is. So I just did a lot of work on that. If you follow me on my Instagram, which is BleepinRose, by the way, and my Facebook's Jeremy Rose, but the hard top, I've been working on it for a while. I had hit some trees a couple times and knocked some sizable dents and dings and holes. So I did some fiberglass for the first time fixing this top, which I'm super happy to have it back repaired because it kind of bothered me that it had holes in it. But that is a factory Scrambler top. I get asked a ton of questions about it, and apparently it's extremely rare because it has the big back glass, where a lot of the other Scrambler tops had a small back glass. So all my leaf springs are BDS 4-inch Wrangler springs. There's no Scrambler springs on it, and it's spring over axle, which means leaf springs above the axle instead of below it. I need to update my shocks, so they're just cheap shocks, and that's something I want to do here in the next few months, is try to put some good shocks on it. And then I also run a big, heavy 2-inch, 2.25-inch track bar, DOM track bar. So that keeps the rear axle from flexing because I have the leaf springs, and allows me to really put the hammer down. So it's under there right beside the drive shaft, and it helps protect my drive shaft as well. And then speaking of drive shafts, there's some crazy candy canes under there. I don't know if you guys saw those or not, but my birthday was a few weeks back, and Knoxville Driveline, he helped me out with shafts. He can do anything for anybody. If you need anything, just contact him. But he as a joke for my birthday, painted my shafts candy canes. So they're probably going black, so they're probably not going to stay that way, but they did look sexy for the show because we were just at a Jeep show. So, but my drive shafts are 2.25-inch tubing, 1/4-inch wall DOM with 1.5-inch long splines, and it's 1410 and 1350 joints on both front and rear shafts. And my front shaft's really long. It's like 44 inches long. My rear one's like 28 or something. It's pretty good. So my wheelbase is 111. I love the way the Jeep looks because of the wheelbase. It has this fast appearance, in my opinion. I think it looks rowdy, like it's ready to, like you're ready to dump the clutch and take off. But if I were to do anything to make the Jeep go better, I would push the rear axle back another 10 inches or so and try to get it around 122. But I've never done that. But I do know if I did it, it would be better for the Jeep. It would go better for sure. My rock skidders have been here forever. They're 1.5 by 3-inch quarter wall square tubing, rectangular tubing. So, and they're welded to the frame underneath. They come right out. My roll cage comes down and actually ties in to where my gussets go to the frame. So we designed it that way that the mounts on the rock skidders are directly underneath the roll cage. It sandwiches through the floor of the Jeep and all 4 corners and does that. So I do have shoulder harnesses, and they give you a lot of confidence. If you don't have shoulder harnesses and you do get in hard stuff, you put them on, it makes you feel a lot safer. So I am glad I have those. Matt has his burrito cooker in the dash. I have a cooker right between my seats right here that you can pick up at any truck stop, and it has a cigarette outlet plug on it. And it's super awesome. It's just a cooker. It looks like a lunchbox. And I've had that one for 10 years probably, and it's beat all to pieces, but it still works amazing. But you plug it right into your cigarette lighter. We cook hot dogs, chili in the can, little smokies, anything you can put in there and wrap in aluminum foil, Hot Pockets, whatever, goes right in there. That cooker is amazing. We'll cook breakfast on it, dinner, lunch, everything like that. It's fantastic. It's crazy hot. If you leave it in there like 45 minutes, you're going to burn yourself. My cooler's right between the seats. It acts like a fantastic armrest. It's just like the perfect height. And then I can get to my waters or my Coke or whatever super easy. I don't have to stop, get out of the Jeep when it's super hot and go in the back and get a water or something like that. So I do run a 50-inch light bar on top of my windshield that I fabbed in with complete quarter angle right here. This was an angle that I fabbed into right here, so you can see right there at the top, it's quarter. This was my drip rail. I completely welded it full and then made custom mounts for that. So it's super strong. I've beat on it a lot, and it's not dented or anything like that. My fenders are just some homebrew flat fenders. I run drive flanges on my front axle. I don't have selectable hubs on it. Would I mind having them? Yeah, it'd probably be okay, but when I got the axle, it came with the drive flanges. They're bulletproof. They're actually called bomb-proof or something like that, and they're great. So I just keep running them, and it's always fun to tell somebody to unlock your hubs, and they've been down and I don't have hubs, so it's always fun. The Chubby Chaser name, it showed up one day about 3 years ago. A girl nicknamed my Jeep, and I thought it was hilarious. She called it the Chubby Chaser, and that's where this name comes from. People all the time are laughing about it and joking. So I thought it was hilarious. We were down at a Jeep show in Georgia, and she told me about it. I laughed. Came back the next week, had them made up at the sign place, and we were going to another Jeep show in like a week or two. And I was headed there, and I was just going to leave it for the weekend. That was my whole goal. Put it on the hood, make everybody laugh. It would be super funny. And so many people laughed and loved it. And I'd be riding on a trail, and people didn't even know, just ha, 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 and start laughing. So it kind of stuck. And now, hell, here we are, hashtagging Chubby Chaser. You know what I mean? My front winch is Warren 8274. A lot of people don't understand this winch, and it's hilarious because the comments that I'll get, they'll say, "Holy old school on your winch, bro," and you're like, "Holy dumbass, bro." But this winch right here is 8,000-pound winch. It has 155 foot of cable, and one of my next upgrades, I'm going to convert it to rope. I just want to find the exact right rope that I want, but I'm going to convert it to rope on here, and when I do that, it's probably going to lessen it. Probably be about 125, 130 feet probably, because the rope you run a little bigger size. But either way, it's got 155 foot of cable on it right now, and it winds in at 76 feet a minute. So it flies like, I mean, it goes in. It's kind of scary if you're not used to them. Makes all kinds of racket and clicks and goes, and this little planetary thing spins over here. Hands down, the best winch for my Jeep. I'm not saying it's the best winch, but for my Jeep, I love it, you know. And then we have the grill guard, the little light bar, and the hoop and all that. And then as we're going to pop the hood here, and we'll talk about that. I like the thimble. I don't really like a hook, but they have came out with some really cool thimbles that have hooks on them and stuff like that I do like as well. But I do really like running the thimble. On my onboard air is under the hood. It runs off of the engine. My front bumper is my air tank, so I figure it to be about 1.5 gallons or so. A lot of the air tanks that you run are about 2 gallons, so to have 1.5 gallon front air tank, it works great. If I'm grinding a lot with air grinders or drills or anything like that, I have to take my hand throttle and rev the engine a little bit more, and it holds it fine. But at idle, it'll air up tires, it'll run impacts and everything at idle. When I start grinding, I rev it up so it pumps a lot of air. Chevy Vortec LS 5.3 came out of a 2006 Chevy Tahoe. Had 66,000 miles on it when I got it. It's single-handedly the best thing I ever did to the Jeep, and the second would be going 1-tons, and the thirds are going to be the new Sticky Mickeys that I got. So that's the three things that are my favorite about the Jeep always. The LS, I had a carbureted engine in it before, and I blew it up, and then I put a second one in it, and it just sucked. It didn't have much torque and had the wrong cam in it, so then I bought a new cam, and it was better after that, but it's still carbureted, and it just sucked. And so I was like, I'm over it. I'm going with a fuel injection. Found one, boom, put it in a little while later, and it was great. It was just amazing. Jim's Performance out of Maryland, he did all the tuning for it. He put a red tune in it and did all the wiring. And so the wiring for the engine is super, super clean. The wiring in the Jeep sucks, but the wiring in the engine is great. He did a phenomenal job with that. My steering, I run some PSC components, and then I run some surplus center stuff for my hydraulic steering on the bottom, because it's full hydraulic, which means I don't have a gearbox. So it's just got a big ram, double-ended ram down there. And then I run a pump in a reservoir, or a pump housing, and then I have an external reservoir, so I have tons of fluid, keep it really cool. I have a heat sink on my power steering. The onboard air is something a buddy of ours came up with, and I think there's another company, I believe Goat Built, that makes one similar to it, but it mounts it on the other side on like a car engine or something. But he came up with this. It's phenomenal for the LS. It just goes right on there and hooks right up, and we don't have any issues out of it. It's the same thing that's on the Comanche. So Matt and I are the only two that actually have these exact brackets that the guy made. So a lot of people ask me about my air manifold that I built right here, and everybody says, where'd you buy that? You know, I'd like to have that. And I'm like, well, we made it. And they're like, you didn't make that. I'm like, go watch the video. So it's pretty hilarious. I burned up half of Matt's tools making it that day. It was pretty funny. But made that thing, polished it up, and I get a lot of comments off of it because it's simple and it fits the side of the York like it should, and I recessed the Allen bolts and all that stuff. So it's just a cool little feature. I don't ever use it, obviously. I mean, you don't have anything to do with it, but it's neat. Some of you might wonder why I have this aluminum tank in here, and it's called a surge tank, and a lot of the GM engines have them, not all of them, but they'll have a plastic surge tank when your radiator cap is on that plastic surge tank. That's the exact same thing as a surge tank. I just built an aluminum one, and then I got a double row, but it's like a large double row. It's like a 4-core, but a big Griffin radiator, so overheating's never, that's not even a thing. Like I said, I don't ever use my electric fan or anything like that. The Premier Power Welder alternator, this is how it works. This is a 175 amp alternator, and it's badass. Like it runs anything. Like it charges my battery in no time because it's such a big alternator. But the way it works is when I turn the welder on, the Jeep runs off of the battery. The alternator is what powers the welder. The welder itself doesn't use any of the Jeep battery or anything like that. That alternator is strong enough to power the welder, and it'll, I mean, it's unbelievable like how much power it'll put out. Like when you weld like at like little bitty amps, you know, like it's nothing. Because when you run a power tool, you crank it way up there because it needs a lot of power to run the tools. But that alternator is probably the most expensive part of my engine. Like those alternators are crazy expensive, but it's just part of having the welder. You got to have it. I run a dual diaphragm brake booster, and I run a Dodge Van 2500 master cylinder. We've put that on at least 9 other Jeeps. The reason I run the Van 2500 master cylinder is in the inside right here, it's designed for the double brake booster, because you got to have a different master cylinder for that, and the Van one is short. If you get one for the truck, it's not short. It's not stumpy and short like this. It pushes it way out, and then it doesn't work for the double diaphragm. But if you were going to do a single diaphragm, you could just use like the Dodge one. But it's great. It looks more modern because it has the plastic and stuff like that. I hate the metal ones, the old Chevy Corvette style or whatever. I hated those. Damn, leaked all the time, always rusting. I used as much of the factory wiring as I could. So the battery cables even came with the engine when I got it. So I run literally the battery cables, the positive and negative battery cables from the Tahoe itself when I got it there. So I moved my battery to the driver's side and because they come factory on the passenger side, but I moved it to the driver's side right here under the fender, and I built a hinge gate for it to get it out. So I just unbolt this, and then the front of it folds down and the battery can slide out. And I run an Optima. I really like the Optima yellow top. I think the next battery I get, if there's an Odyssey that goes in there, you know, a lot of people are talking big things about those. But the key to the battery, in my opinion, a lot of people say they're junk, but I run a master kill switch in the Jeep. And I turn it off every night, anytime I leave it sitting, I turn it off. Because the Jeep's just got, you know, the radios and all this stuff in there, and it'll run the battery down over the course of like 2 or 3 weeks. Not running the battery down, my battery's never dead. Like, I mean, this battery is old as heck, and I just turn my key on and boom, fires up. But before I put the master switch in there, I was going through batteries pretty often because I was cycling them up and down all the time, always running the battery dead. Do I want more power? Sure. I wish I had more torque to do over again. Loving the LS as much as I do, I would probably get a 6-liter to do over again, but just for a little bit more torque. But besides that, I love it, and you know, maybe one day I'll put more power or something, but I just don't see myself doing that because with the suspension that I got, I'm already pushing myself like suspension wise and beating and banging. The motor's got plenty left, so you know, I'm not. It's the only time I ever need more motor is when I'm drag racing Matt or something. So there you go. So I have an engine skid pan that goes under the engine, which does a really good job of protecting it, but I still have broken 2 oil pans, and I busted a bell housing off of my transmission one time. So, and my transfer case transmission skid is 5/16. Big old monster, weighs like 7,500 pounds. It's a beast, but it holds up pretty good. And then the engine skid pan, it does pretty good. The last time I broke the oil pan, I put a Hummer oil pan that we picked up from DVR Performance one day in that video, if you've seen it. Those guys hooked me up with that, and it's about 1.5 inches, almost 2 inches shorter, so it really helps out. I say really helps out, hopefully, who knows, but I'm hoping that I have more room now for that skid plate to kind of flex, because that's just what happens. It just flexes up. It doesn't bend, just a little flex, and it comes back down, and it was enough to crack the aluminum oil pans, because the stock Chevy ones have this little half circle thing where the drain plug comes out, and it was just pushing on that and busting the oil pan. So that happened twice. I felt like an idiot both times, but you know, that is what it is. Everybody loves my chubby girl. It goes with the Chubby Chaser theme, I guess, but I just happened to see that one day at a flea market and bought a couple and gave them to a couple of my buddies, and mine's been on my Jeep for, I don't know, like 8 years or something like that. So it's been on there a long time, but everybody asks about that. And did I tell you I got Mickey Thompson tires? I don't know if I told you that or not, but I'm in love with the tires, hands down. I love the look of the Jeep. It's just so tough, and so do you guys, because everybody's mentioned on Instagram, like, holy cow, totally changed the look of the Jeep. It's and it did. I mean, it's got tons of bite in it, and the tires are amazing. So guys, that's the walk around. I don't think there's anything else, but that's the walk around of the Chubby Chaser. I'm glad I finally did it. I've been telling you guys forever that I was going to do it, and I was going to do it, and I was going to do it. So here we are. We did it. So make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, and leave in the comments what your favorite part about the Chubby Chaser is. And again, I want to thank everybody that helped me do this. Matt was a huge part in my Jeep build over the years. He's just, you know, been there to help me, and always along the way. So BleepinJeep has definitely helped. But moral story, like, subscribe, hit the blue bell, comment what your favorite part is. If you think I need to do something, tell me what I need to do. Or anything like that. What's your opinion? What I need to do next? So, thank you guys. I appreciate you watching.